Welcome into the Commanders Report live show here on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Thank you to all the real ones tuning in at the beginning of today's live program. We've got a bunch of great Commanders content coming your way here over the next hour or so. We got 3 great segments. But before we get into the content today, I want to see who my real ones are down there in the comment section. Shout out your city. We've already got 124 people watching live around the world, ready to talk some burgundy and gold with us here from Chat Sports. So go ahead right now. Shout out your city down there in the comments section. I want to know where you guys are watching the show from. We got Raymond from Washington, D.C. We got Kenny Lewis. We got Kieran from Columbus. We've got Wendell from D.C. Ebony Wright from Virginia. Cassie with my girlfriend, of course, coming to us from Dallas. We got Preston from Virginia. TK from North Carolina. Martinez. We've got Dill Pickle from Fairfax. Bruce is from Virginia Beach. Sean T is from Bristol, Connecticut. Preston's from Virginia. We got Tony from Washington, D.C. We've got Tropic from Lakeland, Florida. We've got a bunch of great people in the chat right now. Let's bring on our producer here. Mr. Joey Petersen is here joining us live today. Joey, how are we doing today? Are you ready to talk some Commanders football with us?
I'm ready, man. It's fun. This is my first ever free agency with this company.
Yeah.
You know, I joined in May. Very dead time, my first 3 months, and we're locked and loaded. We're rolling during this free agency period. It's going to be a crazy next 7 days, so I'm excited about it.
Very excited, especially with as much cap space as the Commanders still have, even after the Deebo Samuel trade. On today's show, we've got the latest news and rumors surrounding your Washington Commanders. Lots of stuff has been kind of rumoring around the National Football League today. Lots of news to cover. And then also, I got my perfect Commanders free agency plan. That'll be our second segment today. Every single player that I would sign in free agency if I were the Washington Commanders. And then I've got my latest mock draft for the Washington Commanders with the Deebo Samuel trade. Now you don't have that 5th round pick, so how does that change the dynamic of the Commanders 2025 draft plans? I'll let you guys know during today's show. Our donation menu today, guys, it's certainly not a requirement to donate to the show via Super Chat, Venmo, Cashapp, or PayPal, but we do greatly appreciate it, guys. You guys can get on the show today with any Super Chat. If you got a question that you want me and Joey to answer, if you have a topic you want us to talk about, any dollar Super Chat amount, we will get it up on screen and discuss it. Every $20 we get on today's show, I will do 10 push-ups. Every $50 that we get on today's show, we've got a Bean Boozled candy toss. All right, so these are the Bean Boozled candies, which are the red hot ones. So we've got sriracha, jalapeno, cayenne, habanero, and then Carolina Reaper are the flavors. So the rules are I have to toss it into Joey's mouth. If he catches it, nothing happens. But if he drops it, then we both have to take a shot. So those are the rules. Every 50, we'll do a candy toss. And, but because these are fiery jelly beans, either way, you get to see one of us suffer. So get those.
Sounds brutal.
It sounds brutal, but it sounds a lot of fun for you guys at home. So make sure you guys get those Super Chats in, get those Cash Apps in, Venmos. We're going to have some fun on today's show. And if we can get up to $100 total today, we'll add 10 extra minutes at the end of today's live show to talk Commanders football with you guys here on the show. And if we get to 200, I'll drink a big glass boot. We'll fill it up with water, and I'll chug it to finish off today's show. I want to give a shout out here to our Hog Mafia members. These are the people that have put in $50 or more on a singular Commanders Report live show. Shout out to IQ Barbecue, Mark O'Gorman, Omar's Burner, Lord Buddy Bear, Luke O'Gorman, TJ, Commando Mike, James Howard, Russell Hance, Jerry Gettings, Jimmy R., Luis, John Masood, On Holiday, Robert the Redskin fan, Grandma, Christopher Turner, Lil Rob 820, Felipe Garcia, and John Ginn. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. And if you guys want to send in your donations today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal, we actually get to keep more of the proceeds when you send in your donations via these 3 channels, because YouTube takes a 30% cut of every single Super Chat that you guys send in. But if you send it in via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal, we get to keep more of that money so that we can use that and put that towards new equipment, new graphics, all the stuff that makes our channel the best damn Commanders channel anywhere on the YouTube platform. It's all because of your guys' support. So thank you guys so much for all of your guys' contributions. And also Zachary Spencer joined Hog Mafia last week as well. So shout out to Zachary Spencer for being last week's MVP. And if you guys want more dedicated draft content here from Chat Sports and from me in particular, we are really going to be ramping up our content on our draft channel here at Chat Sports. I'm going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff as producer Coop comes over here. Everybody say hello, producer Coop. How are you doing today?
I'm well.
He is well. He still thinks Dak Prescott's a better rushing quarterback than Jaden Daniels.
He's a better quarterback than Jaden Daniels.
No, he is not. That is a ridiculous statement. But if you guys want more NFL draft content from us, you can go follow us on our draft channel. Joey just put the link to that in the comments and description of today's show. So before we get into our first segment today, who's all here? Joey's going to give some shout-outs here. Everybody that's spamming me in the chat is going to get a shout-out if you've liked today's stream. We got to get to at least 40 likes. We got 125 people watching live. We need to get to 100, or we have to get to 40 likes. So 7 more likes here before we get into our first segment. So Joey, take it away.
And the rule is you can't type me unless you've liked it, okay? That's cheating. So only type me if you've liked today's video. Got 35 likes, just a few more to get to 40. Who's going to put us over? We got Dill Pickle, your boy Football Elite. We got Kieran, Dill Pickle, your boy, Dill Pickle. We got Joven. We got Bruce, Dill. We got Jasmine, Roger, your boy, Bruce, Dill, your boy, Dill, Demetrius.
All right.
And we got 46 likes.
We've got 46 likes, which means we are ready to get into our first segment on today's show. First up, we've got the latest news and rumors surrounding the Washington Commanders. So without further ado here, once Joey gets it all ready for us here, we will get into our first segment on today's show. Joey's giving me the thumbs up here, so we are ready to get things going. So without further ado, let's get into our first segment on this week's Commanders Report live show. The Washington Commanders have received some bad news this offseason earlier today. I'll let you guys know what that bad news is at the top of today's edition of the Commanders Report. Then there's a report coming out here that the Commanders are going to be re-signing this specific player once NFL free agency gets going. I'll let you guys know which player they're planning on bringing back. And then we're going to finish up today's show with talking about whether or not Washington is going to add another veteran wide receiver to their roster, even after trading for Deebo Samuel last week. Welcome into the show, guys. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Before we get into the show today, it really is word-of-mouth referrals that really help our channel grow. So if there's somebody in your life that's a big Commanders fan, you think that they would love our videos, share our channel with them. You guys can send this particular video, or you can send the link to our channel to them. We greatly appreciate all of your support, and it really is word-of-mouth referrals like that that really help us grow our channel and grow our subscriber base. So thank you guys so much for all of your support, and if there's somebody in your life that you think would love the Commanders Report, send us their way, and hopefully they'll subscribe as well. So we'll start with the bad news here, which is that the Las Vegas Raiders have come to terms with superstar edge rusher Max Crosby on a massive extension to make him the highest paid defensive player in the history of football. All right, so the details here are a 3-year extension, $106.5 million total over those 3 seasons, which puts his annual earnings at $35.5 million per season, which is over Nick Bosa's current rate at $34 million per year. So the reason why this is bad news for the Washington Commanders is because if the Commanders end up trading for Myles Garrett, now that number that they're going to have to pay him on a new extension to keep him in Washington for the long haul just went up, right? This is why I was in favor of trying to get Myles Garrett as soon as humanly possible, and it certainly seems like the Browns, at least at this point, are not willing to come to the table on a potential Myles Garrett trade. Hopefully they eventually come to the table on that, but I still think Garrett is worth the price tag, all right? Like if the Commanders have to pay him $36 million per season over like a 3 or 4 year extension, I think that is more than worth the price tag. You're also going to have to give up 2 first-round picks to be able to go out and get Myles Garrett at least. But I think that everything that you have to go out and get this guy for, the 2 first-round picks along with the contract, is more more than worth the cost to get this guy in your defense, because he's arguably the most disruptive defensive player on the planet today. And if you compare him on defense with Jaden Daniels and what he's able to provide on offense, this Commanders team is going to be ready to win Super Bowls right now, starting in 2025. So now let's shift over to NBC's Matthew Perry, who reports that the Washington Commanders are expected to bring back tight end Zach Ertz for yet another season. Now, Ertz had a very good season, and I think that it would be very good to bring him back. But also he reports that Dyami Brown, the wide receiver that kind of came on towards the end of the season last year, especially in the postseason, the report coming out of NBC is that the Commanders plan on letting him walk, and that his expected market is going to be a lot better than a lot of people tend to think. He's kind of a deep threat. He did come on as a little bit more of a better route runner towards the end of last season, so there is expected to be a market for Dyami Brown. And honestly, guys, I'm cool with both of these decisions by the Washington Commanders. If it ends up being the case that Zach Ertz is back and Dyami Brown is not, I think I'm perfectly fine with that. Zach Ertz had a really good season last year for somebody that is getting older. He's not the athlete that he used to be, but he did have 66 catches for over 650 yards and 7 touchdowns. He almost averaged a first down per reception. He really had a great connection with Jaden Daniels last year. So if you're looking to continue to keep Jaden Daniels as comfortable as possible heading into his sophomore season here, I think Zach Ertz is a good option, especially if you get him for the right price. So pick one to keep for me down there in the comments section between Zach Ertz or Dyami Brown. Which one do you want to keep here in Washington? Type ZE for Zach Ertz or DB for Dyami Brown. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Fanatics. While I'm telling you guys about Fanatics and the great deal you can get with them, go down there in the comments section, find today's pinned comment at the top of the comment section, and let me know which of these Commanders you'd like to bring back. Now let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics. And if you guys want to help out the show today and get some more Commanders gear for yourself, this is your opportunity to do so right now. Use our link, chatsports.com/Commanders shirt. It's right down there in the bar below me right now. It's also in the comments and description of today's show. If you click that link and you make a purchase, by the way, this t-shirt is on sale right now from our friends at Fanatics. You make a purchase and part of the proceeds go to us here at the Commanders Report to help us continue to make the best damn Commanders content that you're going to find anywhere on the YouTube platform. So we greatly appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel financially here, you can go chatsports.com/Commanders shirt to get this Commanders t-shirt in your closet on sale today. Now, it's a wide receiver frenzy in the National Football League today here, guys, as there are now a number of big-name wide receivers that are being made available here just before the start of NFL free agency. Just in the last 2 days alone, DK Metcalf has been made available via trade and has officially requested a trade from the Seattle Seahawks. Devontae Adams was cut by the New York Jets. Christian Kirk was released by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Tyler Lockett was released by the Seattle Seahawks. So there's a lot of options at wide receiver in terms of the veteran options at this position heading into free agency next week. But the question is, will Washington be interested in getting any of these guys on their roster? Because they did just trade for Deebo Samuel, and they do have Terry McLaurin, and I kind of doubt, because they already have those two kind of older wide receiver veteran options in this rotation already, that they're going to pay big money on another wide receiver to bring in, at least as a veteran. I think that when you look at Terry McLaurin here, he's due for a new contract extension, and I think he's going to get one at some point during this offseason, and I think that's going to get him close to or even above $30 million per season. I think we all agree that he is certainly deserving of that, even though he is getting older. He has continued to play better and better and better throughout his NFL career. So I expect him to get that big extension and get the big money within this group. And then when it comes to Deebo Samuel's contract situation here, here's all the details you guys need to know. There's 1 year left on his deal. They're not extending him. The base salary is just over $1 million. The roster bonus is a little bit less than $1 million. The option proration, which the Commanders did pick up his option here, so that's just over $3 million. The workout bonus is $200,000, and then the cap hit total, so you combine everything together, his cap hit for 2025 against the Commanders' books is going to be $5.2 million. But you have to keep in mind here that there are 4 void years after this season, all right? So once Deebo Samuel moves on, or maybe they extend him or whatever, this money still has to be accounted for on the Commanders' books over the next 4 years. A $12.3 million cap hit as a void year in 2026, and then just over $3 million in 2027, 2028, and 2029. So I do think that they can afford to bring in another veteran wide receiver, but I kind of think that because you have two guys that are either at 30 or just under 30 in Deebo Samuel's case, I think it makes more sense to get younger at the position in terms of the wide receiver 3 position, and I think the Commanders are going to be drafting a wide receiver relatively early to pair with Scary Terry and Deebo Samuel. Here are the top wide receiver draft targets available to the Washington Commanders here this year. Guys like Burden, Golden, and Egbuka, maybe Maynard would be first-round options, and then Higgins, Restrepo, Knoll, Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. Keep your eye on him. He's a really good player out of Colorado State. Trey Harris and Jack Besh are all players that the team could potentially get on day 2. So let me know down there in the comments section, what round should the Washington Commanders select a wide receiver in? Do you think they should go early and get a wide receiver at pick number 29? Do you think they should wait till round 2 or round 3? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Can't wait to hear from you down there in the comments. That'll be it for today's edition of Commanders News and Rumors. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because every time there's a big update here before NFL free agency, and of course during NFL free agency, we got breaking news coverage every time the Commanders make a signing. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now to never miss a moment. All right, Joey, so we haven't had the opportunity to talk about this yet, at least not live with the community here. Of course, the Commanders ended up trading for Deebo Samuel, and if you guys were watching the show last week, you guys know that we predicted this trade exactly. Exactly. I said I would not trade anything more than a 5th-round pick for Deebo Samuel. And what happens? Saturday night, Adam Peters gets the deal done, and Deebo Samuel is now a Washington Commander. Personally, I love this move for the team. All right, I put it in our breaking news video we put out on the channel. I think Deebo's a really good player still. I think that he's not a number 1 guy anymore. He needs to have a bounce back here after really struggling last year with the 49ers. But a 5th-round pick is nothing, man. Like that's, you're taking a really good player. Honestly, most of the risk involved in this trade is the money that you're taking on with Deebo Samuel. And I think that Deebo can still be a very effective player, especially because of the way Cliff uses these weapons, putting him into the backfield, orbit motions, the wide receiver screen game that we know Cliff loves to run. Like Deebo fits all of that absolutely perfectly. And then I think Deebo, the best route that he runs is a dig route. And I know that Cliff really utilized those dig routes over the middle of the field last year quite a bit with Jaden, and he's so good at getting to that backside dig. And if you get Deebo Samuel the ball in open space on a runaway route like that, good Lord, watch out. He is a freight train. I love this move, Joey. The people haven't heard your opinion on it, so take it away.
I think I like this move, okay? I think that because it is Deebo coming to Washington to play for Cliff Kingsbury, I think that makes this move a lot better.
I agree.
I don't know how I feel about Deebo Samuel. Just as a player, I don't want to say he's over the hill, right? I think that's a little bit dramatic. But, man, if you look at against him and against press man coverage, if you've just looked at his yards per game stats over the last couple years, he had 3.2 yards per carry this past year. And again, I know those are very specific details, very specific stats, and he was playing on a team that had lost Brandon Ayuk, right? He had to be thrown into that wide receiver 1 role, and I think he's past that part of his career.
I agree.
I think it can do well. I think he can be a good player again. It's just a lot of money. But the good thing about Washington is they have that money, right? They're not taking on.
And it's only like $5 million against the cap this year, so it's not really that much this year.
Yes, exactly. And even if it was, they have it, and so might as well, take a swing, crack a few eggs. You got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet, as they say. And so I like the move from the fact that they're taking a swing, and I'm excited to see Deebo in Cliff's offense. I just am not sold on Deebo being a star ever again in this league.
Yeah, he's going to need, I don't know if he ever gets back to being the Deebo of old and being the complete freight train that he used to be. But as a number 2 option, especially as like a gadget piece in this offense that likes to do a lot of creative things and motions and all this different stuff, that Cliff likes to do, especially the wide receiver screen game. He's like one of the best run-blocking wide receivers in all of football still, so that's certainly going to help as well. That'll help the screen game. If you want to throw a screen to Terry and then have Deebo block for him in front of him, I mean, that's something that could certainly work. But I definitely still feel the need to draft a wide receiver within the first 2 days. You know, both of these guys now are, either at 30 or approaching 30, so you need to get somebody for the future to develop that chemistry with Jaden Daniels, and I think they're going to take one probably in the first at least 3 rounds to make sure that they keep replenishing this group and always make sure they give Jaden Daniels the proper weaponry.
Well, and I think that they should, because if you look at this draft, does it have the top heavy names, heavy hitters like Marvin Harrison Jr., like a Jamar Chase? Those guys, even though Chase got taken decently late, but you look at last year's draft, right? No other wide receiver was going to be picked over Marvin Harrison Jr. He was a top 5 pick, no doubt about it. A lot of people were saying he was the best player in the draft overall, and that's not this year. But what this year does have is it just got a lot of depth, right? You're going to be able to get some receivers in the 4th, 5th, sometimes maybe even the 6th round that I believe are going to be really, really good NFL players. Can they come in and be a wide receiver year one? No, they can't. But they can give you a lot of really good minutes, a lot of really good reps. Wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of those 5th or 6th round guys have a lot of success in the league.
Absolutely. All right, speaking of free agency here, we do have my official, perfect, ideal Commanders offseason plan. Let's get into that right now, guys. Really do appreciate your support. We got over 250 people watching. Let's get you ready for NFL free agency right here on the Commanders Report with my perfect Commanders offseason plan. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today I'm going to reveal what I would consider to be an ideal NFL free agency for the Washington Commanders. So right now the Commanders have a lot of team needs that they need to address here, and I think that they're going to be very, very busy once the legal tampering period opens up next Monday. So before we get into the content today, and before we start talking about the players that I would love the Commanders to go out and get in free agency this year, make sure you get down there in the comments section and let me know who your guy is. What is a free agent in this year's NFL free agency class here that you would really want the Commanders to sign this year? Let me know down there in the comments section who's the guy that you're really hoping is wearing burgundy and gold in 2025. So we'll start with the effective cap space after the Deebo Samuel trade, because of course Deebo is accounting for about $5.5 million against the cap this year. The Commanders currently have just under $58.5 million to spend in free agency on veteran players. All right, now you can still add to that, and I think the easiest way to do that is to cut Andrew Wiley, the right tackle, which would save you another $7.75 million here. And that's going to get you right around that $65 million range there to go out and get these players that I'm about to propose. We'll start with the biggest signing here, and we'll go from biggest to smallest. I got 10 signings I'm going to have the Commanders make today. First one is Ronnie Stanley, the left tackle, formerly with the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to sign him to a 2-year, $20 million per season contract to be the next left tackle of the Washington Commanders. Now, fair warning here, I will point this out. It's certainly looking like the Ravens really want to bring back Ronnie Stanley. They really like him, and it's certainly looking like that the signs are starting to point to Stanley staying in Baltimore. But that doesn't mean that Stanley isn't the ideal option for the Washington Commanders, which I think that he is. I think he'd be a perfect fit here in Washington because he's a veteran player. Of course, the Commanders are trying to win now while Jaden Daniels is still on his rookie contract. And speaking of Jaden Daniels, he's a mobile quarterback. What has Ronnie Stanley been doing over the last several seasons? Protecting a mobile quarterback in Lamar Jackson, and that is a skill set, ladies and gentlemen. So if I have an opportunity to go out and get a really good left tackle that has experience playing on good football teams and protecting mobile quarterbacks, I want to go out and get that player. I don't care what the price tag is. Then my second signing here, I'm going to go Charvarius Ward, the cornerback out of San Francisco here. 3 years, $14.5 million per season to put him on the other side of Marshawn Lattimore. And yes, that would mean Mike Sainristil, who played outside cornerback, or at least he played there for most of the season, would move back into the slot. That's the position that Dan Quinn and Adam Peters drafted him to play. And I think Sainristil is a more than serviceable outside corner, but I think he can be special as a nickel player. All right, so I want to get Sainristil back to where his upside is elevated, and I really like the duo on the outside in this system that wants to be really aggressive with Marshawn Lattimore and Charvarius Ward on each end of the defense. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Where should Mike Sainristil play in 2025? Type O for outside or type S for slot. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question there in the comments section. Another player that I would like to bring in, DeMarcus Lawrence. Now, I think that the Commanders need to add 2 edge rushers this offseason, but I think they're only going to add 1 edge rusher in free agency. The reason for that, guys, is because I think they want to keep their options open in terms of a Myles Garrett trade. They want to keep that door open and that possibility open all the way up until the NFL draft. And then if we get to draft day and the Browns are still not trading him or whatever the case may be, then I think they're going to go and draft an edge rusher probably in the first round of the NFL draft, whether that's Mykel Williams, whether that's James Pierce, whether that's Mike Green, no matter who falls to them, I think that they will be hunting edge rusher in the first round of the NFL draft. And DeMarcus Lawrence, we know last year this team brought in Dorrance Armstrong and Dante Fowler Jr., 2 former Cowboys, to come in here and play in Dan Quinn's system. DeMarcus Lawrence, when he's healthy, is an excellent edge rusher. I would love to see him be the next edge rusher, former Cowboy edge rusher that Dan Quinn poaches here. 2 years, $7.5 million per season for an impact player on the edge. Then a player that I'm going to be bringing back here is Jeremy Chinn. And I think Chinn is the perfect fit for what Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. want in their strong safety, because they really ask their safety to be pretty much like kind of like a hybrid linebacker almost. And Chinn is 220 pounds, and he is an athletic freak. So he pairs that size with speed and athleticism. I think he's a perfect fit for what they want at this position. So I will pay him 3 years, $7.5 million per season for him to be the long-term answer at this position, because I just don't know if you're going to find a better fit out there in the draft or in free agency than Jeremy Chinn. Then we get to Mike Gesicki here, the pass-catching tight end extraordinaire. Obviously, you know, with Jaden Daniels being your quarterback, you're going to be throwing the football a lot. So I'm okay going out and getting a guy in Mike Gesicki who I do think is better than Zach Ertz at this point in their respective careers, and he's not that expensive. 2 years, $6 million per season is the projection on Mike Gesicki, and I think that he would be an excellent safety blanket for Jaden Daniels to utilize in this offense moving forward. I know that Daniels already has established chemistry and a comfort with Zach Ertz, but I think he can develop a similar chemistry, even better, with, I think, a better athlete here in Mike Gesicki. So coming up here on the Commanders Report, the perfect plan continues here. The other 5 signings that I would make this offseason if I were GM Adam Peters. But before we get into the rest of today's edition of the Commanders Report, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Factor Meals. And let me ask you guys a question here. Are you ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat in just 2 minutes, so you can feel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. Lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor Keto meals. Based on a randomized controlled clinical trial with Factor Keto, results will vary depending on diet and exercise. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Factor can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfast, grab-and-go snacks, and more add-ons. Reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. Eat smart with Factor Meals today. Get started with factormeals.com/factorpodcast. It's right down there in the bottom of your screen right now, guys, and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box, plus you get free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. A big thank you to Factor Meals for sponsoring today's edition of the Commanders Report. So we addressed left tackle with Ronnie Stanley earlier. I'm going to make a move here to lock up right tackle as well, and I'm going to go with the hardy veteran Morgan Moses on a 1-year, $5 million deal. Now, Moses at this point isn't the best run blocker in the world, but he's a really good pass protector, and obviously this is a team that's going to be passing the football a lot. So you got Ronnie Stanley at left tackle, Morgan Moses at right tackle on a 1-year deal. You probably draft somebody to develop behind Morgan Moses to be the future right tackle. And then what I'm going to do is instead of signing an interior alignment, I'm just going to kick Brandon Coleman into left guard. I think that he's got the perfect body type to be a really, really good guard in the National Football League. And I don't think he's a tackle. I don't think that his feet and his hands are aligned well enough and they don't work well enough together to be able to be a long-term tackle in this league. I guess he could potentially develop. We'll see what the team's plans are for him here in 2025. But for me personally, I would turn him into this team's starting left guard heading into next year. So you take a look at the new offensive line: Ronnie Stanley, Brandon Coleman, Tyler Biadasz, Sam Cosmi, and Morgan Moses. This is a group that I can go into the draft feeling very good that I don't have to reach on an offensive tackle to be able to be happy here. I'm okay taking a tackle that's a little bit more of a developmental piece on day 2 because we have all this veteran talent on there ready to go week 1 if need be. Then we get into another player that I want to re-sign, and that's Bobby Wagner, the leader of this defense in the middle. He's the communicator. He's the green dot. Obviously, if you want to have continuity on this defense and you want the communication to be at a high level, Bobby Wagner is your guy. I'm also bringing him in on a 1-year, $5 million deal. And, Wagner is not a coverage player, at least not at this point in his career. He used to be one of the best cover 2 pole runners in the National Football League, but now he just doesn't have the movement ability he once did, but he's still really, really good as a run defender, one of the most intelligent players, period, in the National Football League today. He's an excellent blitzer as well. This team blitzed him a lot last year, so I really want his presence and his leadership in this locker room as they try to secure their next Lombardi trophy. Then ideally here, I would love for Marcus Mariota to come back as this team's backup quarterback. Now, there's other teams out there, the Colts, Cleveland, the Las Vegas Raiders that might be considering bringing in Mariota to compete for their starting jobs, but hopefully the Commanders can get him back here. 1 year, $4.2 million on his next contract is what he's expected to make, and I think that he's a pretty darn good backup quarterback. I mean, I think that when you look at the best teams in the league and, they prepare for themselves to have an injury at quarterback, and, that's an unfortunate reality, but sometimes your best players do get hurt, so you have to have contingency plans if you want to continue to compete for Super Bowl championships. We saw it with the Philadelphia Eagles. They ended up winning a Super Bowl with their backup quarterback, Nick Foles, back there in 2017. And God forbid Jaden Daniels goes down in 2025. I think Marcus Mariota showed last year that he is more than capable of taking the reins of this team as this starting quarterback here in 2025 if he's needed. Then we get to a rotational pass rusher here with Jonathan Allen likely out the door this offseason. I really like Daron Payne and Johnny Newton as a duo as your starters, but then you need that rotational piece to come in and be a rotational guy to get after quarterbacks. I think Tyler Tartan is one of the best rotational interior defenders in football, and he comes cheap, guys. 1 year, $2.5 million contract, and I think that, you slot him in behind Johnny Newton, and I think that this is going to be a unit that really does eat in 2025. And then I'm going to bring back Olamide Zaccheaus as well as a depth piece at wide receiver. Obviously, you still have Luke McCaffrey. I think that this team will still draft a wide receiver relatively early to develop behind Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel, but Zaccheaus brings special teams upside as well. And if somebody gets injured, you can trust Zaccheaus to come in and be a very reliable option that can line up on the outside in the slot. His versatility is very valuable to me, and you can get him for less than $2 million on a 1-year deal. So at the end of it all here's my perfect free agency plan haul for our Washington Commanders here. Ronnie Stanley at left tackle, Charvarius Ward at corner, DeMarcus Lawrence at edge, Jeremy Chin at strong safety, Mike Gesicki at tight end, Morgan Moses as a short-term option at right tackle, Bobby Wagner at inside linebacker, Marcus Mariota at quarterback, Tyler Tart as rotational DT, and then Olamide Zaccheaus rounding out the group as a depth wide receiver. So grade my plan down there in the comment section, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. So if you guys want to see more options, I break down every single one of these positions and the options the Commanders have at their disposal in this video you see on screen. I'll put the link to that one in the comments and description of today's show if you want to see every single player that I think the Commanders should be targeting in NFL free agency next week. That'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for making it to the end. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I greatly appreciate all of your support. And until next time, guys, go raise some hell. One more segment to go here, Mr. Joey. We've got my mock draft coming up here momentarily. We got a bunch of great stuff over there. We got over 300 people watching live right now, Joey.
Busy day today. I love it.
Busy day. What'd you think of that free agency plan there? Is there anything that really caught your eye or anything you disagree with?
I don't disagree that all that would be great. I really do think Ronnie Stanley does re-sign with Baltimore. Slick Rick dropped the news this morning. DeCosta talked about it.
Slick Rick
at the combine. I think when Baltimore makes that move, I really think that might be the only sort of big move that they make this offseason. But I think they're going to bring him back.
Yeah, I think so too. And then, I think it's worth noting here, do we have the graphic, the player 5 that we had from yesterday's show of the offensive tackle free agency targets?
Yeah, we should.
Can we grab that and just look at the other options they have at their disposal? Because, if they don't get Ronnie Stanley, I don't know how much I love the other options at left tackle. I mean, Tyron Smith, has been a really good left tackle in this league for a long time, but he's so old and, he's been dealing with a lot of injuries lately. Dan Moore Jr. has a lot of experience as the Steelers starting left tackle, but he has not been good in his career. Don't trust him all that much. Cam Robinson came in and played okay for the Vikings, but for a mid-level, maybe below average left tackle, are you really willing to pay him almost $19 million per season to be this team's left tackle? I just don't know how comfortable I am with the options outside of Ronnie Stanley. So if he goes back to Baltimore, you might have to adjust your draft plans to probably draft a tackle in round 1 to start immediately, or you can plan on playing Brandon Coleman at left tackle again next year, which I guess is a plan. It's not the one I would prefer, but he does have experience with this team playing left tackle. The team does believe in him. He does have the physical skill set to, in theory, play left tackle. What do you think the team's plan should be if they can't get Ronnie Stanley?
Man, it's hard because I'm not going to lie to you. I thought Ronnie Stanley to Washington was what was going to happen because I just didn't think Baltimore was going to have the money. And you look at that list we just showed, all those players, I thought, he's far and away the best, in my opinion, like we were just talking about. I thought someone was just going to money whip him and give him more than Baltimore ever could with their cap space situation. I don't think any of those guys are the answer. I think if you're really serious about getting a left tackle, how would you feel about trading up a couple of spots?
Honestly,
if you're sitting there at pick 29, Josh Connerly Jr. is still available at 24. Would you consider trading up for that?
It depends how much, because right now the Commanders have 3 picks in the first 3 rounds. Then they have no picks in rounds 4 and 5. Then they have a pick in round 6 and then 2 in round 7. So it's what is the cost to get up there? Are you going to have to give up your 3rd round pick to be able to move up, and you only have 2 picks in the first 3 rounds? I just don't know if that's something that I'm willing to do, especially because I think this team needs to get another young receiver, and they probably are going to have to get an edge rusher. So I honestly think you're sitting there and you're hoping one of these guys fall to you, and maybe the plan is, all right, if we can get a left tackle in round 1 that we believe in, great. But if we don't, we're cool sticking with Brandon Coleman at left tackle for next season. Maybe that's the plan, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening because there's not a lot of veteran options that are fantastic. I like the idea of getting Ronnie Stanley and Morgan Moses because I think Moses he does have penalties at times, but I think he's got very good pass protecting technique. He's got a lot of experience. And I think he's a pretty decent fit with this team. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. They haven't cut Andrew Wiley yet, which, who knows? Maybe Wiley will be back next year. That would be rough. But it'll be interesting to see what they end up doing here over the next week. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now. Every time they make a move next week, we're going to be either be going live or we'll be getting you guys a breaking news video at the very least. So we'll keep you guys covered with everything going on around free agency. And now let's shift our focus from free agency to the draft. My first Commanders mock draft since the Deebo Samuel trade is coming at... Oh! No way! We've got a super chat from a Commanders Report legend.
Let's go, baby!
Oh, my goodness. We were just about ready to get into the mock draft, and then boom! A $100 super chat from... Are we...
It's loading.
Ours,
there it is. There it is.
Are we getting there?
IQ
Barbecue Bang! Everybody spam IQ in the chat. And IQ just bought us 10 extra minutes at the end of the show to talk Commanders football. He also bought, what, 2 Bean Boozled jelly beans?
Yep.
Can't wait.
There
All
we
right,
go.
let's get into it. Let's get into it right now. Thank you to Mr. IQ Barbecue for $100 super chat. Unbelievable. Spam those IQs in the chat. You know how much we love you, IQ Barbecue. It's good to see you in the chat again, my friend. Let's get into it right now, guys. My latest mock draft for the Washington Commanders. I'm all hyped up now. I hope I can calm down now. Let's get into the video right now. Today on the Commanders Report, I am revealing my first Commanders mock draft, 7-round Commanders mock draft, after this team traded for Deebo Samuel this past weekend. So today we've got 7 rounds. We're going to be breaking it all down for you guys today. Some big-name players, some sleepers in the later rounds as well that we're going to be covering. Now, my rule with these mock drafts this offseason, guys, is no repeat players from previous mocks. The reason for that is I want to talk about more prospects. I don't want to repeat prospects that I've already talked about in the past. I want to talk about new players every single week on these weekly mock drafts so that you guys know all the players the Commanders could potentially draft in this year's NFL draft class. So never miss a mock for us. You guys can subscribe to the channel for weekly 7-round Commanders mock drafts. We also come out with mock draft roundups where we talk about who Mel Kiper Jr. and Field Yates and all the top NFL draft analysts have in their mock drafts, and we break down those players. If you want extensive Commanders draft coverage all throughout this offseason, click that subscribe button. This is the place where you get the best. All right, so for today's mock, all right, kind of the theme is what if the Washington Commanders don't get Myles Garrett? What if, like, the Detroit Lions swoop in and get him? Or what if the Browns are able to convince him to take a long-term extension to keep him in Cleveland? What happens if Myles Garrett is not a Commander? And I think in that scenario, I think it's very likely that they end up taking an edge rusher in round 1. We'll talk about which edge rusher in round 1 I think that could potentially fall to 29 here in just a second. But here are the draft picks at the Commanders' disposal now after sending their 5th-round pick in exchange for Deebo Samuel. You got 3 picks in the first 2 days. So you got 1 pick in round 1, then you got a pick in round 2 and a pick in round 3. But then after that, you're not picking until round 6 at pick 207, and then you got 2 7th-rounders to finish out the draft. So let's start here. No trades on this particular mock. I think next week we're going to start getting into the trades. But for this particular mock, I'm going to take an edge rusher out of Georgia, Mykel Williams, the super long-armed edge rusher with a ton of power that I think Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. are going to fall in love with. Now, Mykel Williams is somebody that has fallen down draft boards a little bit. He used to be projected as like a top 5, top 10 pick. I don't know if he's going to be in that range anymore. I think it's feasible that he falls to this point at pick number 29. Maybe he ends up getting taken. It's certainly a possibility he gets taken before this. But if he's available at number 29, I think he'd be an excellent option for the Washington Commanders. And I think that he would give this team a future number 1 edge rusher with the super long arms and the power that he brings to the table. His ability to win with finesse as well is very nice as well. And he's not the most explosive guy in terms of getting out of his stance. He's not the best in terms of the bend around the edge or anything like that. He's not going to win with speed very often, but he's got incredible power in his hands, and he knows how to use them with finesse. And so, he knows how to use those things as a run defender as well, which is really important to Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. So if you're looking for somebody to really be a mainstay as an edge rusher for the next decade in this Commanders defense, I think Mykel Williams can be that if he makes it to pick number 29. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Would you be happy with Mykel Williams in round 1 of the NFL draft if he falls to pick number 29? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know if you would like to see Mykel Williams in round 1. Then in round 2, I'm going to take somebody here that I think is still a little bit raw. He's not all the way there yet, but I think he's got all the tools to be successful as an NFL offensive tackle, and that's Ariante Ursary, the offensive tackle out of Minnesota. He's played a lot of ball. Now, he's not perfect. There is a reason why he's going in round 2 and not in round 1, but he's got the tools to succeed, all right? And I think that he can play guard if you need him to as well. This offensive line just needs to add players that can play. And I think that Ursary has the physical skill set to be somebody that can play in this league moving forward. And I think that, you bank on those tools and then you try and develop those tools moving forward. I think that you want to really address the positions of need in free agency. You want to fill up those holes so you got enough veteran talent on there to feel good enough about your offensive line heading into the draft. And then you can take a guy like Ursary that can sit behind for a little bit, that can learn and develop, is not going to be thrown out there too early. And I think if you can put him in a position like that, I think he can really develop as a potential future left tackle for the Washington Commanders to protect the blind side of Jaden Daniels. Then in round 3 here, I'm going to take one of my favorite receivers in this entire class, the long, lanky receiver, Torrey Horton, out of Colorado State. Now, Horton is somebody that's really good after the catch. He's a long strider. He makes incredible catches that are in contested situations. He's a good route runner. I think Horton is an absolute baller. I think when you watch his film, he just goes out there and makes plays. And those are the players that I love to watch on film, people with great instincts, people that know where to go with the football when they have the ball in their hands. And, for a guy like this, who is coming off an injury, so keep that in mind. But, I think that's probably why he's going to go round 3 and not somewhere earlier. But I just think Horton is a really good ball player. And if you put him in the same offense with Terry McLaurin and Deebo Samuel, where he can learn from those guys over the next several seasons, I think that Horton is somebody that can really develop chemistry with Jaden Daniels and really be a great player for this offense for many years to come. So coming up here on the Commanders Report, my day 3 picks, as we talked about earlier. This team has 3 day 3 picks, a 6th rounder and 2 7th rounders. So we got some sleepers for you guys to finish out today's show. But before we get into the rest of this week's mock draft, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, where you guys can get a great deal on a Commanders t-shirt that's on sale right now, guys. Go to chatsports.com/Commanders shirt. And another great thing about this promotion, guys, is that if you use our link, chatsports.com/Commanders shirt, click that link and you make a purchase, Fanatics sends us part of the proceeds to help us buy new equipment, to help us improve our graphics, all the different stuff that we need to keep the lights on here at the Commanders Report. It's provided by you guys when you purchase stuff like this. So go to chatsports.com/Commanders shirt, get this shirt in your closet today, and help us out here at Chat Sports. So in round 6, I'll take a cornerback out of Louisville. I thought he had a really good week at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama. Really speedy corner that I think has a lot of tools that you look for, especially in the kind of aggressive defense that Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn want to run here, and that is Quincy Riley out of Louisville. And I think that, when you look at a guy like this, he definitely needs a little bit of development, and I do think the Commanders are going to be addressing corner in free agency. So this guy can sit, he can learn, he can develop, and, maybe, a couple years down the line when Marshawn Lattimore or whoever they end up bringing in free agency moves on, Quincy Riley could be somebody that this team considers as a potential starting option on the outside. Then we get to round 7 here. I'm going to take Bashal Tutin, running back out of Virginia Tech, who just ran an incredible 40 time at the NFL Combine. This guy was absolutely flying, and he is a speed demon on film as well. He's got really good vision. I honestly think he's one of the more underrated running back prospects in this entire NFL draft class. Right now, I think PFF has him in like the 200s on their big board, which is ridiculous. But hey, if they're going to allow allow me to take him in round 7, I am going to take Bashal Tootin here in round 7 to pair with Austin Eckler and Brian Robinson Jr. and somebody that could potentially get into the starting rotation in years to come. Then in round 7, I'm going to take an inside linebacker here, maybe somebody that could potentially think about replacing Bobby Wagner as a legit middle linebacker, and that's Kobe King. Now, you guys can see here, Kobe is a bigger body for an inside linebacker. He's almost 250 pounds. And if you know anything about Bobby Wagner and the role he plays, he is a bigger kind of true middle linebacker. I think Kobe King runs a similar style where he can learn from Bobby Wagner for a year, and if he develops enough, perhaps this team can think about plugging him in once Bobby Wagner eventually retires. He will be somebody that will have to sit and develop. There's a reason why I'm projecting him to go in round 7 here, guys, but I think that he's a good run defender. I think he plays with good instincts and intelligence, and I think that if you're looking to replace Bobby Wagner's role in this defense, you got to be ready to do that now if you're not going to address it in free agency. So I think Kobe King right now would be a good fit to learn from BWAG. Then we get to my mock draft haul here. There's not that many picks now that we traded for Deebo Samuel, but I got Michael Williams, defensive trenches there in round 1. Then I'm doing the offensive trenches in round 2 with Ariante Ursary. Then Torrey Horton, really good receiver out of Colorado State in round 3. To be your wide receiver 3 on day 1. Quincy Riley, a developmental corner prospect on the outside. Bashal Tootin and Kobe King in round 7. So grade this week's mock for me down there in the comments section, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you guys are thinking down there in the comments section. And let me know what you would do in round 1 if Myles Garrett is not an option via trade. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're doing these mock drafts every single week in preparation for the NFL draft here in just a few short weeks here, guys. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Until next time, guys, hail to the Commanders. All right, so we got start the shot clock here, Joey. Oh, it's already started. There we go, Joey. 10 minutes, courtesy of IQ Barbecue.
Yes, sir.
And now we got 2 candy tosses here.
There we go.
2 candy tosses.
And I already got the shot poured.
And by the way, if you guys have questions, use hashtag Commanders and we'll get them up on screen. All right, so the rules are, if Joey catches it, no shot. All right, but if he misses, he has to drink a shot.
Yep.
All right, so those are the rules.
Those are the rules.
Are you ready?
It was a little bit more enticing to play when, you got delicious candy, but now
it's you got the jalapeno, and I think this is habanero. So we'll go with the less spicy jalapeno first.
I appreciate it.
All right, so if he catches it, no shot, but if he drops it, he has to eat it and take the shot.
Yep.
All right, so
both.
Yeah, so it has to be a punishment to miss.
Yeah, because other than that, I'm slapping it out of here.
Exactly. All right, you ready?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. So remember, it's home run derby rules, so he can reject it.
Yeah.
He can reject it. You ready?
Yep.
Up. Oh, look at the catch! That was a bad throw too. He adjusted. How do you do that? I just don't the hand-eye coordination is unbelievable there. Or the hand to mouth.
No.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. All right, you ready?
Wow.
Second one.
They're not as good as the Skittles gummies.
Oh my gosh. Let me know.
Let me get some water.
Oh man, he's getting. I don't know if you guys could see it. His face is starting to get red.
Oh.
And that's not even the spiciest one. This is the spiciest
this
one.
This is the spiciest one.
This one's the spicier.
Oh God. Alrighty, let's get it done with.
All right, here we go. You ready?
Yep, let's do it.
And it's up. And it's good. No shots today, Joey.
Just pain.
Just pain. Yeah, just the heat. Just drink some water. All right.
Yeah, I'll wash this down.
All right, so if you guys got any questions here, get those questions in. We'll answer them here. We'll talk some Commanders football for another 7.5 minutes with you guys before we say goodbye. Joey's got to set it up. First question here from JG says, what is the percent chance of a trade back at number 29? I don't think it's impossible. If they want to get more draft picks in the middle rounds, that's certainly a way that they could do it. At pick number 29, it's pretty much a trade out of round 1 at that point, right? It'd be a team that's, on the outskirts of, in round 2 that's looking to move up for a player to have an additional year on their rookie contract. And I think those opportunities will be there, all right? Like if somebody really likes Jackson Dart and really wants to get that additional year on his rookie contract and contract control, maybe somebody thinks about trading up with the Commanders there. But, I personally think I think they're going to want to take a player in round 1, whether it's an edge, whether it's an offensive tackle. I have a feeling it's going to be one of those 2 positions, though.
Yeah, I do as well. I don't see them trading out of 29. There's some good edge rushers that might be able to fall that late. And who knows, man? With the James Pierce Jr. character rumors going on, I wouldn't be. Mel Kiper had him out of his first round in his most recent draft.
Yeah, I thought about James Pierce. Honestly, you can make an argument James Pierce makes more sense than Mykel Williams.
Yeah, 100%.
Because Mykel doesn't have the character concerns necessarily that Pierce has. Now, Pierce is somebody that intrigues me because he's just so athletically gifted. And he can be a big impact day 1 for the Commanders, but he's got some serious character issues. Mike Green has got some pretty serious sexual assault history. That's going to be a minefield. So maybe Mike Green falls, even though I'm not sure if he's a great fit. Like he's a little undersized for what the Commanders usually want. I think Landon Jackson is somebody to keep your eye on at edge rusher for them. I think that he's a perfect fit for what they want. Bigger guy, really good run defender. Maybe a Jared Ivey in the middle rounds from Ole Miss is somebody that I think they'd be interested in.
Do you want some James Pierce Jr. inside sources scoop?
What's that?
So I used to, for those of you who don't know, I went to the University of Tennessee. I actually work for the football team. Their current photographer who's worked for them for the last 4 years, him and I are still good buddies. I texted him about James Pierce and just seeing if the rumors were true. He said, and I quote, "He's a wild card for sure."
Oh, my God.
But then I asked also the equipment manager, who's been the equipment manager for the last 4 years, said, man, we didn't have too many issues with him in equipment, but he definitely has grown up a lot from when he first got here, but definitely needs to keep growing. So it seems like those might be true.
So it's going to be, so the interviews and like the pre-draft visit is going to be important for him.
Yes, 100%. I think that's going to be the entirety of the draft for him.
Yeah.
Because with what he did with the combine, with the way people saw him move, his 40-yard dash,
4.4 something.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
4.47.
So explosive. Like
he almost ran Isaiah Bond's number.
Yeah, exactly. Like he is fast for a bigger defensive line prospect. So I'm excited about him as a player. I'm worried about him as a personality.
Yeah.
And do you really want to bring that to a team that's trying to win now? Like that's a serious question. But I think between offensive tackle and edge rusher, they're going to take probably best player available at those 2 positions. If they like Matthew Golden falls to them in round 1, maybe maybe that's just too tantalizing.
I like it.
But if there's a legit offensive tackle prospect waiting for them, I think that's probably what they're going to do. And if they don't get Myles Garrett, they're definitely going to take an edge early as well.
Quick draft question, then we can move on. I've seen Tedero McMillan, most namely in this most recent Mel Kiper mock draft. He fell 22 in that. Do you think there's any way he falls that far to the early 20s? Because I don't think so.
No, I think that he's a special prospect. I think when people actually watch him on film, I actually question if Mel's watches these players on film.
There's no shot.
Because Tedero is just a special player, special athlete with his size and ball skills. Like that triple threat ability is just so difficult to come by. He reminds me of young AJ Green. So I think he's at, very least a top 10 pick. I personally think he's going to go top 5. I think he's that good. All right, so we got Sean Gardner here. Says, will the Commanders sign anyone on Monday? And predictions on who it may be. They will sign people on Monday. I think they'll sign multiple people. We'll see who they end up being. Rewind on this live show. We just went over my perfect Commanders offseason plans. If you want to see some of the players that I would pursue, you can check those out. But, I think they're going to bring back a lot of players. Bobby Wagner, Jeremy Chin, potentially Zach Ertz. There's certainly players they want to bring back. and re-sign, but then there's going to be players on the outside looking in here that I think they'll probably want to add as well. I think they're going to get a corner on day one. All right, so on Monday, I think expect the Commanders to get some sort of corner, whether that's in the slot or whether that's outside. I expect them to get some sort of edge rusher, whether they bring back Dante Fowler Jr. or go out and poach DeMarcus Lawrence. It'll be interesting to see what they end up doing there, but I'm very excited to see what they do next Monday. Make sure you click that subscribe for the latest updates. Jasmine Gray says, I have a question for you, Jack. How many sacks that Myles Garrett will get this season? I don't know, Jasmine. I mean, it's just, if he comes to the Commanders, he will have a lot. All right, let's just put it that way. Buddy's Great Adventure says, what's your opinion on Landon Jackson or Malachi Starks to the Commanders? I think they're going to bring back Jeremy Chin, so I don't think that's going to be a true need for them heading into next season. Talking about safety there, but Landon Jackson I'm a big fan of. Great run defender, maybe the best run defending edge in the class. He is so powerful in his hands. Not super explosive as an athlete, not a speed rusher or anything like that, but very powerful hands, knows how to use his hands as well. Very powerful frame. So I think Landon Jackson is a really good fit on day 2 of the draft for this team. Lowski says, do you think we will acquire Myles Garrett after the Deebo trade? I hope so, Lowski. It's going to come down to whether the Browns come to the table and then if the Commanders can outbid teams like the Detroit Lions. I think it's going to come down to the Lions and Commanders who ends up getting him. And, it's going to come down to who gives up the most, right? Because whoever gets him is going to have to give him the biggest contract for an edge rusher in NFL history. And then on top of that, you're going to have to give up at least 2 first-round draft picks to get him. All right. And if the Lions and Commanders are going back and forth, you might have to add on another 3rd-round pick in there or something like that. Like, it's going to be a lot to get him. But for me personally, I think it's worth every penny and every single draft pick. I think he's that special of a player. I think he can make the kind of impact, Joey, on the Commanders' defense that Jaden Daniels had on the offense last year. Like, not everything has to be perfect around him. He makes players around him better.
Yeah, I've said this before. He's not just a guy that changes games. He changes seasons. You know, a player of his caliber, even at his age, right? He's been in this league a very long time. He is still going to wreck games for you. He could win a game by himself. Just what he does, and say he doesn't put up the sack numbers, the attention he garners from an offensive line and from maybe throwing an extra tight end out there, just what he garners attention-wise frees up so many other things for other people on the defensive line. And that was one of the big things this past season for Washington is they didn't really have one great edge rusher. And so offensive lines kind of were just like, okay, we'll play everybody straight up.
Honestly, their best edge rusher was like Frankie Louvu. Like Louvu was like their best pass rusher this year. Especially the 2 interior guys, Payne and Allen, really underperformed expectations this past year. So, they need to get that disruptor, because Frankie, as great as he is, you can't just rely on him. You got to get somebody in there that can be a little bit more disruptive. He's a really good run defender as well. That's an underrated aspect of Myles Garrett's game. He's so big, that he's just so damn strong, and he pairs that with world-class athleticism and explosiveness out of, at the get-off. So I think that he's a special player. You got to go get him if you have the opportunity, in my opinion. And that's going to be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here on a Wednesday evening. We'll keep you guys updated on the live schedule next week. I think we might go live sometime on Monday next week, but we'll see if there's a trade. If Myles Garrett gets traded to the Commanders, of course, we'll go live for that. Lots of fun stuff coming up on the Commanders Report this offseason, guys, so click that subscribe button if you haven't already. So, Joey, you got anything else left to say before we say goodbye here?
Appreciate you guys for being with us, and we'll see y'all next week.
All right, man. We'll see you guys next week, and until next time, go raise some hell.